at this club, and we maybe didn't perform to our potential.
This isn't a happy day. This is always a difficult process. It's never easy. And so, ownership felt like this was the best course of action, and we're going to move forward. But we want the new coach to have a say in all that. I think it's important that the head coach picks his own staff. Yeah, the biggest thing that I see is our lack of ability to overcome adversity on the field. There's a lot of lack of mental toughness on this team.
Our owner has given us all the tools we need to build this football team, and I just don't feel like we performed this year the way we've performed in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's looking for a starting quarterback with that skill set, and so I would guess right out of the gate, at least 2 or 3 teams are interested. We're going to start making those phone calls literally tonight, and so we'll gauge that market. But he's a tremendous quarterback. You guys know what kind of leader and what kind of personality he is. Anybody that isn't firm on quarterback, I think, is going to want to at least have a conversation.
Yeah, so there it is, the official announcement of Rick Campbell gone and going to be replaced. There's a couple candidates out there that I know of, that we should all know of, that it's going to happen with. He's either going to be Buck Pierce. Right now, Stoudemire is another one that is looking into coming BC. But right now, I think Buck Pierce is probably the main guy coming here. We're going to get into all this of what's going on here with the BC Lions and the CFL. We're first going to recap the Grey Cup, which I found out, which was an unbelievable experience. It was very, very well done with Amar Doman putting on the whole event here in Vancouver. And he really did an unbelievable job with the festival itself. The festival itself was well put on. And Amar Doman himself is, well, we know he is one of the best owners in this league, and he knows how to do events, and he's an event guy, and that's what we need here in BC, is an event guy, and we finally got one. And he showed it at the Grey Cup himself. He really did. He showed exactly what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it and why he wanted to do it that way. And he put on a big time event. Apparently a lot of the committee, the Grey Cup committee, was in Las Vegas for last year's Super Bowl, which they went down and started making notes and going around and seeing how things were put on and that type of thing. And it did feel like a Super Bowl atmosphere, especially on the Friday and Saturday when the people really started to come into the convention center. All the stuff that was around, all the memorabilia that was around. They had a bit of the Hall of Fame there, about 3 or 4 statues. Of course, all the stuff for the kids to do, and of course all the parties that were going on, on the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. All the rooms, the Saskatchewan room, the Lions Den, the Winnipeg room, all of them, they were all there. And not only that, but there was people from all over the country that was there. And to be honest, what I saw compared to the last Grey Cup in 2014 that was here was a lot of youth, a lot of young kids. And I'm not kidding, probably 20 to 27-year-olds. Just not at the festival, but at the game itself. There was a lot. And that is something in 2014 we didn't see a lot of. I can count on the back of my hand years ago going to Lions games how many youth age between 18 to 30-year-olds were there. And that's all I can do is count on the back of my hand how many we're at per game. But now there seems to be hundreds that are coming back out to the Lions games, and that's great to see. And this festival, I think, really, really picked it up, and I think it proved that we're a big-time city event. And it's, the Grey Cup is a big event. It's huge, and it peaked up into the 8.3 million at one point. We averaged almost over 4 million that were watching it consistently across the country, which was excellent. So that was my take on it from my experience when I was there. I found it just to be fascinating with everything that was going on. And the whole point with this Grey Cup that was happening was to get the younger generation out. You know, one of the reasons the Jonas Brothers were there was because of what was going on. And they put on a great show, unbelievable halftime show, probably one of the best ones I've ever seen. The one in 2011 wasn't bad when the Lions were in it. 2014, not so bad. But this one actually topped them all. I mean, the show itself was unbelievable. So congratulations to Amar Doman and the whole CFL committee. They did a fabulous job. To talk about the game a little bit, yeah, we all didn't expect Toronto to come out and do what they did, especially how dominant they were in the fourth quarter. They basically showed a lot of things that surprised the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and I think the Winnipeg Blue Bombers wanted to throw the ball a lot, and they did. But when they did hand it off, they handed it off to a point where Brady just ran up the field. You know, he averaged almost 7 yards a game, or 7 yards a carry, and they should have kept doing that, and they didn't do it. They just trying to get the big play in, you know, that type of thing. So congratulations to the Toronto Argos. They deserve the win. They played defensively unbelievable. I think they had 3 or 4 sacks or 3 sacks on Collaros. I know when Collaros hurt his hand, that pretty well did it. But before that, the Argos were all over them. So congratulations to the Argos. They also had an excellent fan fest when they got home, and it was on the Tuesday, and they did a nice job of that. You know, apparently there was 4,000 or 5,000 people that showed up for that, so it was jammed right inside Maple Leaf Square. It was completely jammed. Couldn't get another soul inside there for how many they wanted to fit. So that's good to see. Hopefully now the Argos can get on top of the success and they can do something about it at the box office for next year. And, you know, Pinball will be all over this, and the whole staff of taking advantage of this whole situation of what the Argos have just done. And I believe the Argos could average 18,000, 19,000 a game. I mean, I really could. I mean, even on their off nights, I believe they could. I really do. I know they're still looked at in that city as way, way, way down. But I believe their attendance could rise, you know, like averaging that much this year. You know, like we're talking every game. Nothing below 18,000. You know, as long as they stay competitive and good, which I think that they're going to. I really do think that they can do it. And we'll just wait and see. You know, we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. Time will tell. You know, Chad Kelly's hurt, of course. They say he's going to be back in time for training camp. They're hopeful. They're saying 3 to 4 months. And he will be back. Yeah, their quarterbacking is solid in Toronto, and it proved it on game day. It really did. You know, it proved it with him that, you know, here's a guy who basically was out of football for a long time, or he was not for a long time. He was going to get out of football. He was going to head back home to the States and change different careers, you know, get into something else. And the Argos came on calling to him, and he went out and he was the MVP. So that is something to always look at, you know. And when a surprise team comes in, you never know what's going to happen. Anyways, but let's get back to the changes that were made this week. Ed Hervey becomes the general manager now of the Edmonton Elks, in charge of football operations pretty well. And who knows who he's going to hire. Is he going to bring Rick Campbell in? There's a rumor that he's going there. That's basically where he's going. There's no doubt in my mind that I believe that's his number one priority, is getting Rick Campbell into Edmonton. But yeah, so the press conference, if you haven't heard it, we can try one more time.
we just felt that we have the player personnel here at this club, and we maybe didn't perform to our potential.
This isn't a happy day. This is always a difficult process. It's never easy. And so, ownership felt like this was the best course of action, and we're going to move forward. But we want the new coach to have a say in all that. I think it's important that the head coach picks his own staff. Yeah, the biggest thing that I see is our lack of ability to overcome adversity on the field. There's a lot of lack of mental toughness on this team.
Our owner has given us all the tools we need to build this football team, and I just don't feel like we performed this year the way we've performed in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's looking for a starting quarterback with that skill set, and so I would guess right out of the gate, at least 2 or 3 teams are interested. We're going to start making those phone calls literally tonight, and so we'll gauge that market. But he's a tremendous quarterback. You guys know what kind of leader and what kind of personality he is. Anybody that isn't firm on quarterback, I think, is going to want to at least have a conversation.
Yeah, so there we go. And that was the snippets of the press conference that went on. New general manager, Rickman, which I believe he came across as very authoritative, very determined. And like he said, one of the biggest things the Lions had a problem of is when they get under some pressure at home, especially when they played and they were down by, a couple touchdowns like that. A lot of times they couldn't overcome it. And I think that's what he really, really wants to change, is the adversity that this team does in games. That has to really change and have a belief in themselves of that they can come back from a deficit and win a game. We totally get it. I mean, not every team it's very unlikely they're all going to go 18-0. But we totally get that. But the whole point is that when you are down by 7, 8, 9 points in this league, you can come back. It's not, I wouldn't say it's difficult. It's not an impossible thing. This league is known to go right down to the last buzzer. So the Lions themselves have a lot of talent on this team, and they do have a lot of heart. And I think a lot of guys on this team were I'm not going to name players, but I just think a lot of the team was thinking, okay, we are going to come back, instead of actually doing it. No problem, we're going to come back. But actually going out and doing it is another thing. And I think Rick Campbell did not lose the room. I just think Rick Campbell is a change of direction. There was a lot of situations where they went into halftime and things were not changed when they needed to be changed. And you have to put that onto the coaching. You really do. And a lot of times, especially in sports, that I know you got to do it yourself, and they are professionals. They have to do it themselves. I totally get that. But to the point where, the coaches has to make changes. They have to come up with schemes or some kind of different scheme that we're going to be doing that we're not doing right. And this is where they ran into the problem all year. And because of that problem, unfortunately, Rick Campbell is gone, because we ended up 9-9. And I know Amar Doman himself was not happy with the season. I can just tell. And nobody was. So, yeah, as you can see below me, there is a call board if you want to phone in or you want a text line. You can give me a call or you can text me in, and we can discuss this whole situation of the season of the BC Lions and the changes that they have made. Now, I want to get into this fellow right here. This guy right behind me, Buck Pierce. I want to start talking about him. Is he going to be our next coach? That's the big one, right? Is he going to be into that? Is he going to be doing it? We'll see. What kind of coach could he be? Well, he's offensive minded, right? He really, really knows the plays. He really, really knows how to work with quarterbacks. And I think he could design a lot of unbelievable schemes for Nathan Rourke to really learn and make this his own team. Buck is a guy who, when he played here in BC, that he was like that as well. I mean, he was tough, but he knew how to read defenses very, very, very well. And that's one of the reasons why he is such a good offensive coordinator. And I think he's going to be an unbelievable coach one day. I think he's going to be right up there. When Dave started, Dave Dickinson, yeah, you know, the talent that he had, he worked with that talent, and it got him a couple Grey Cups and a lot of Western Division championships, you know, that type of thing. So I think Buck Pierce himself can be unbelievably welcomed in this city. He's a fan favorite. People love him, and I think he will sell tickets. I really do, if the Lions go after him. You know, I know there's some other candidates that, you know, our offensive coordinator as it is now, you know, there's rumors that he might become head coach. Stoudemire might become head coach. He's a guy who took the Ticats to a couple of Grey Cups a few years ago. But I honestly think the Lions are really looking at Buck Pierce. Now, does Buck Pierce really want to leave Winnipeg, right? They got a really, really good thing going. I know they haven't won a Grey Cup, you know, in the last 3 years, but they seem to be there every year. They seem to be winning the Western Division every year. But Buck Pierce becomes a head coach, you know, and it looks like, you know, that it's in a city that he played in and that he loved, you know, and he's from the West Coast too, right? That's the thing. And his wife is from Winnipeg. We know that. And I know she's not feeling right now, and our blessings go out to her. But it's going to be a tough decision with him. It's really going to be a tough decision. I believe the Lions are going to be interviewing 7 or 8 candidates, and Buck is going to be one of them. And when they sit down in front of Buck, I know they're going to have to put their complete foot forward, and they're going to have to really listen to him and what he really wants. Because if he doesn't really want to do this at this time, then it's not a good time to go after him. But we did have to make a change. We really did. And on this fellow here, Mr. Rick Campbell, where is he going to be going? Well, I honestly believe he's going to be going to Edmonton. I really do. I don't think he's going to be going anywhere else. Him and Hervey have a very good relationship. They're really, really good friends. He hired Rick Campbell to come here to BC 5 years ago. And Rick Campbell brought a lot of stability to the Lions. He really did. He brought a lot of organization, and he brought a lot of his experience. I mean, you got to remember, he just came back off of winning a Grey Cup, and then he came out here. You know, it was a couple of years later, but after that, he came to Vancouver. And so he did a lot of great things here. He really did, you know. And he, in my opinion, he is probably the only one out there that I think that can turn probably that franchise around, which needs a direction. It needs stabilization. It needs the Elks need organization in that city. They need something for the fans to get excited about. And it's not just to do with winning, it's to do with a professional atmosphere, professionalism. That's what it really needs. And Jerry Jackson did a great job when he took over. He really did. You know, a lot of the players really like him. You know, they love his technique. They love his schemes that he does. He's an ex-quarterback, you know, that type of thing. So, but yeah, we have a lot of things to discuss today. Just besides that, we have around the league, what's happening around the league. We also got the Hamilton Tiger Cats. What's going to be happening with Bo Levi Mitchell? Are they going to re-sign him? Are they going to bring him back in? 5,000 plus yards. I don't know. You know, does he want to come back? I heard he does. I heard he wants to come back and prove it. He wants to take that team into the playoffs and do some damage. And believe me, if the role that they went on, if the Ticats hadn't lost so many games at the beginning of the year, they would have made the playoffs. I think they would have passed Ottawa. I really do. Ottawa was kind of in a downslip, and I think Hamilton would have passed them. But that's just our opinion of what would have happened. A little too late in Hamilton for them. But Bo Levi Mitchell was up for MOP. Of course, he lost to, you know, Brady, who deserved to win. You know, the best rusher in the league, over 1,500 yards. He did win, and he's on a championship team as well. So I know it's kind of silly in a lot of ways that Bo Levi didn't win what he did with the last back half of the season for Hamilton, but a lot of writers felt that, you know, I guess Brady was a little more valuable, you know, to what they've been through, because they were 2-6 at one time, and he brought them back too. So you can look at it both ways. If Hamilton had made the playoffs, I could see Bo Levi winning that award. I could, but they didn't. So there you go. But anyways, yeah, we got the Hamilton Tiger Cats. We got the Ottawa Red Blacks. They made the playoffs. They did, and they did well. You know, they were out to an 8-2 season. For the first 10 games, they were 8-2. You know, they were challenging for first place with the Montreal Alouettes, 8-2-1, I believe they were. And then they just backed off. They basically went to the tank for the last 8-9 games. And Drew Brown is a very, very good quarterback, and he's going to be a very consistent, good star quarterback in this league. And I think the Ottawa Red Blacks to be patient with him, because he will turn this franchise completely around. I know he will. They'll be competitive every year. But Ottawa next year will be fine. I believe they'll make the playoffs. I believe they could probably even host a game. They just probably need a little more offense on the front line. A few more star wide receivers, big play wide receivers they need. And I think they'll get over that hump. You know, their coach is an unbelievable coach. If they had not backslid all the way down, he probably would have been for Coach of the Year. So, yeah, the Red Blacks, I think next year will do an unbelievable job. They'll be right up there. And now we got, of course, the Montreal Alouettes, Eastern Division champions, but they did not get into the Grey Cup. That's the big thing. So why didn't they get into the Grey Cup? Well, first of all, they're playing the Toronto Argos, and the Toronto Argos at the time were on a roll. And defensively, Toronto won that game completely. And it was a very close game, but the Alouettes themselves, getting first place is not good enough for this team now, which is great, you know, for the Alouettes and their ownership and everything. Now, getting to a Grey Cup is what they want. They want to get to one every single year, and they have the team to do it. They really do. They basically have the personnel, they have the ownership, they have the leadership, and they will be back on top. They'll be challenging for first place again next year. And Chad Kelly for the Toronto Argos, if he's going to get healthy before training camp, if he comes back 100%, which I don't think he will unless he is 100%, he will come back. If he's 80%, 70%, they'll just continue with their other quarterbacking duo, and they'll wait for him to get better. And then he'll come in. He started getting better and better and better near the end of the year. He won his last 3 or 4 or 5 last games, and he looked very, very dominant. He's got a great arm. He's mobile. He's smart. He can read defenses. And maybe taking some of the pressure off himself of how he has acted from last year to this year and why he was suspended. And I think if he looks at that himself and just continues to move along as he is, he seems like he's doing well, and prove to everybody and to himself that he can beat this thing with himself. He doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. He just has to go out and play, you know, and behave himself. And he has been. He's done really well. So if Chad Kelly can keep that up, he's going to be dominant next year, and I predict the Argos are going to win the East. You know, they really are. That's my prediction. And I believe it'll be them and Montreal head and head all the way down to the East Final. And, you know, those two teams right there want to make Grey Cups. Winning the East and stuff is not good enough for them. It isn't. But they're also going to have Ottawa behind them, and then they're going to have Hamilton behind them. And I believe that all 4 of those teams are going to be very strong, very strong. It's going to be a very good division. And it was this year, and it's going to even be better next year, which is what the CFL needs, because they always looked at the West Division as the strongest, the East the weakest. Well, the parity in the East is very strong, and it's going to get even stronger for next year. If we come over to the West and we look at the Western Division champions, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Well, it proves again that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers can get to the Grey Cup, and they looked unbelievably dominant against the Rough Riders in the East, in the West Final. But when it came to the Grey Cup, they fell apart again. And we don't know if it's age. We don't know if it's, I wouldn't say lack of confidence, maybe too overconfident. We don't know about that. They're always looked at as the powerhouse in this league. I'm not looking at them as a dynasty. I'm sorry, people. I can't. 5 Grey Cups, and they've only won 2. They're dominant through the regular season. I call them a dynasty through the regular season because they always do is just win the West and get to the West Final and win that and get to the Grey Cup. You know, I look at it that way. But they've lost the last 3 Grey Cups. And maybe it was bad play calling. I don't know. But there seems to be some changes that has to happen on this team for them to get back to their dominance in a Grey Cup where they won the first 2 Grey Cups, which they did. And you got to remember when they won that first Grey Cup against Hamilton in Calgary, they were pretty dominant. I mean, they had Andrew Harris, and you know, they were just a very dominant team. And not saying they haven't been dominant. And they won the second Grey Cup in Hamilton. They won it in overtime, barely, but they did. So for the Blue Bombers to get back on top, I think they're going to really have to work at a lot of their chemistry when it comes down to the Grey Cup. You know, the week building up to the Grey Cup themselves and coming on a business trip. You know, I know they said that they were going to do that this time. Well, obviously, it didn't show in the game. You know, it really didn't. I mean, they were up 7-3, but after that, they just kind of laid back, and they did not use their play calling right, nothing like that. And I believe that there's got to be changes. Unfortunately, I believe that Buck Pierce, you know, is going to become a coach. And if not here, maybe he'll go somewhere else. I don't know. But the Bombers are still going to be the #1 team to beat next year. I believe that. I believe they want to get to their own Grey Cup. I believe they want to win their own Grey Cup like we did. And the only way I think for them to get over this hump is they got to have some kind of spark on this team. They really do. Is there a reason why they went 0-4 or 2-6? Did they come in and take the season a little bit lightly at the beginning? They weren't on page with each other. They were hurt. There was a lot of injuries. Yes, you can make excuses to your left and right, but the whole point is that they didn't get it done. And in Winnipeg, it's Grey Cup or bust, the whole thing. It has been for 5 years there. So I know they're going to want to get back to their Grey Cup. It's going to be a tough thing for them to do because we tried it here and it's not easy. So if it was easy, teams that hosted the Grey Cup would get to their own Grey Cup every year, and it doesn't happen. It has happened very, very little in the CFL over the 111 years. You know, I would say probably since the 70s all the way to now. You know, there was a lot of years in the 50s and 40s and 60s, a little bit in the 60s where, yeah, Toronto went to a lot of Grey Cups and hosted at Varsity Stadium and that kind of thing. I know that, but I'm talking about more now where there's more, you know, leverage in the league and that kind of thing. It's been a very tough thing since the 70s to get to your own Grey Cup. So Winnipeg has to do some soul searching with themselves, and I still believe they have the best coach in the league in O'Shea. He's a legend. He's a Hall of Famer. He's not going anywhere. His coaching career is gonna end in Winnipeg, I believe, one day. That's where it's gonna go. And for me, myself, I believe that my prediction for next year with Winnipeg is I believe they will win first place. I just have a feeling that they will do it like they did this year. Do they win the Grey Cup next year? I don't know. Do they get there? I don't know. But winning the West during the regular season, I believe they will. I do. And I don't know if they win that game. I don't know if they get to their own Grey Cup or not. That is something that's just going to be for next year, right? Depends what kind of changes they make, what kind of stuff's going to go on, who they get. If Buck Pierce comes to BC, well, who's going to be their offensive coordinator? There's so many different, levels of situations that has to happen. Next for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Well, they had an unbelievably season. Corey Mace was up for Coach of the Year. Of course, he didn't win it, but he was very close. He turned that franchise around. He really did. They went 5-1. Yes, they lost 7 in a row, but then they came back and won 4 more or 5 more in a row. And they got to second place. They beat the BC Lions for second place, hosted a playoff game, and got that team back to respectability and challenging, for first place, If it wasn't for Winnipeg losing against Montreal, or Winnipeg beating Montreal in the last game of the season, which they almost did lose, Winnipeg would have, or Saskatchewan would have won the West. So they had an unbelievable season, and the Rough Riders next year are going to be just as good. Are they going to go keep Trevor Harris for the rest of the year? I believe they are. He had a really, really good season. Yes, he got hurt, but he was on pace for over 5,000 yards before he got hurt as well. And himself, he basically took that Rough Rider team on his back for the last 4 or 5 games and won a lot of football games and got himself second place, hosted a playoff game, and went to the West Final. No, they did not have a very good West Final at all. Winnipeg tore them apart. But that's Winnipeg, and that's how dominant they were. Nobody was going to beat Winnipeg that game. I don't care who played them at home. They weren't. Winnipeg was not going to lose that game. So for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, yeah, I believe that they could end up second again, challenging Winnipeg for first place. It really depends. Saskatchewan's defense was unbelievable all year. That was Corey Mace. He loves defensive football. Their takeaways was unbelievable, fumble recoveries, interceptions. They led the league, that type of thing. So, yeah, they got a great future. And fans out there, get on board. Get out to that stadium. Get on board with this team, because this team is going to be competitive for a lot of years. It really is. Get out to that park, because you guys are Rough Riders Nation. You guys are the backbone of the CFL. You really are. You guys show a very good example of how to support your team. So get out to the park next year and support this team. It's going to be a very good team for a long time. Now on to the BC Lions. Well, as we talked about at the beginning, we showed a bit of the clips of the press conference. They did not live up to their expectations this year. They went 5-1. They looked solid. They looked good. Besides the first game against Toronto, they looked very, very good, and they were climbing. They were getting better. And then that Calgary game, something happened. I don't know what that. They had an off night. They lost by 2 points. They went into Winnipeg. They got shut out. Things were climbing a bit downhill, and VA got hurt. That's where this season changed for the Lions. Gaglaraga was okay when he went to Edmonton. He played okay, but we lost that game as well. Something had to be done, because he wasn't going to be our starting quarterback. VA was hurt, a knee injury. So we don't know how long he was going to be out. They said week to week, but he ended up taking about 3 or 4 weeks to really get better. I think it was about 3 weeks, to really get better. So we needed somebody. We needed somebody to come in, and all of a sudden Nathan Warwick came calling. And he heard about what happened with VA, and I believe the Lions went after him and just was updating his situation, because he knew he was cut by the New York Giants and he wasn't going anywhere. I don't know if he was even going to get picked up by another team, but I think he didn't want to wait. And Nathan said, "Yeah, I want to play. I want to be in there." Well, they brought him in, and it was a good move to bring him in, but he wasn't ready to jump right in and make his start. He wasn't ready for it. He hadn't played in over a year. And when Nathan came in, and I know it has been said that the locker room was fine, they support each other, and they are good friends, those two. They really are. But when Nathan came in, that really did something to that locker room, hidden behind the walls, that nobody's talking about it. I don't think it made anybody arguing or mad at each other or anything like that. Just humming and hawing, like, why is he here? Like, this is VA's team, right? Okay, we understand he's hurt. Okay, well, let's get behind Nathan. Let's go out there and let's win some football games. And how he struggled, and then he won 2 in a row, and then he struggled again. And I think winning those 2 in a row games helped him secure his job as number 1 for a couple more games. And as soon as VA was ready to go, I don't care if Nathan had won 3 or 4 in a row, this is VA's team and he should have been back in, and he wasn't. And everybody has said that. Farhan has said that, everybody has said that he should have been back in, and he should have. And he wasn't. And this team started falling apart chemistry-wise completely. The coaching staff, Rick Campbell, I believe he could have handled a little bit better than that. He should have had VA back in no matter what. And just showing that this is VA's team. And, I'm not worried about Nathan Rourke. He's such a team guy. He's going to be supportive no matter what. He just wants to win. He's so competitive. So it would have been fine with him. It would have been. But that's what should have happened. And yeah, he would have been disappointed, but he would have been, that's football. He would have been fine. So as far as I'm concerned, that's where this team fell apart. And defensively, it started getting worse. And doing formats and schemes and stuff like that where not changing at halftime, not adjusting at halftime defensively really hurt this club. And because of that, we were getting picked apart by some very good teams, Saskatchewan, of course, Winnipeg. When we played in Edmonton, they picked us apart at that time. The Lions themselves did not adjust to the season. And because of that, we were 9-9. And luckily we were 5-1, because if we were 500, then we would not even make the playoffs. So we made it into the playoffs. Yeah, we made it into the playoffs. As our president said in the press conference, it's great, we're in the playoffs, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough to get there. And what we are looking at is Grey Cups or busts now, because we're that good of a team. We are. Yeah, we need some personnel changes. We're going to get a good coach, but we're going to be back on top very shortly. I know the Lions are, So that's where the Lions ended up going downhill, was that whole situation with when Nathan Rourke came back, and the chemistry basically got torn apart. And that's what happened. Because who knows? I mean, if Nathan never came and VA got better and Gagliaraga came in and he won, say, I don't know, the next 4 games he was 2-2, and then VA came back and he was back in, and who knows if it would have been the same team as we were 5-1. Who knows if he would have gone out and won 6, 7 more in a row. Who knows? We might have lost every game. I don't know. But all I do know is what's done is done. And we got Nathan back. And I believe next year this is going to be Nathan. Well, of course, it's going to be Nathan's team under a new coach. He's going to have his coaches come in, and it's going to be a new regime. That kind of thing. So we have a lot of free agents. We have 25 or 30 of them. And we do got to sign the guys that Nathan's going to click with the best. I've heard him say in the press conference that this is not Nathan's decision of who he wants as wide receivers, running backs, so and so. And we are going to try to keep the best players here that we can keep, and we gotta have to mix up the crop a little bit too. Steinbach, yeah, I believe he'll be back. He had a 1,000-yard season. Of course he'll be back. But as we all agree, I believe we all have to agree that we have to beef up that offensive line. That has been the problem for years. There was one fellow who I was talking to at the Grey Cup who had told me that we haven't had a decent offensive line since 2011. And he's absolutely right. 2012 too. And he's absolutely right. That offensive line won the Grey Cup for us. I mean, Lule could throw all day. They were that good. And he's right. We need to beef that up. There's no doubt about it. There is no doubt. I don't care who you have back there. You could have Mahomes back there. You could have anybody back there. If your offensive line isn't good, you're not going anywhere. That's just the way it is. So we do have to beef that line up big time. We got to move on here. So now we got the Edmonton Elks, and the Edmonton Elks are going to really improve next year. I believe Ed Hervey is going to turn that team around. I really do. I believe Rick Campbell will do an unbelievable job there. He is going to go there, people. I I just can't see it not happening. Who are they going to have a quarterback? Trey Ford? Are they going to sign him and he's going to be the #1 starter? Or are they going to bring somebody else in? Where VA is going to go? It's going to be another topic for another day. That type of thing. But the Edmonton Elks, I think, are really going to improve. They're really going to stay in the playoff hunt all year. And I believe they could even challenge for second or third, like stay in that third or second place, But that's my prediction with them. I believe they're that good, and they're going to be that good. And I believe they're going to have an unbelievable year next year. I really do. And fans are going to start to turn out. They got an unbelievable owner. That owner, is a lot older, there's no doubt, but his whole family's into it. His whole family wants to see that team succeed, and they will. They'll do whatever it takes to make that team succeed. Last but not least, the Calgary Stampeders. Dave Dickenson. I was really shocked when he did want to come back and stay as head coach and GM, unless they hire another GM, which I don't think he's going to do both. But I believe they really got to do everything they can to get VA, because VA is on his way out. And VA will turn that franchise around. Just his presence will turn that franchise around. Rick Mara is not the guy there. It never has been. Bo Levi Mitchell should have never left, but he wanted to move on. But I believe VA can get into a situation like that, and just by his enthusiasm and his leadership and his quality of a character that he is and his ability to play, which he's an outstanding quarterback. He really is. He's a very good quarterback. Yeah, he gets inconsistent sometimes, but I think it's enough to get that team rolling and to get them going good. But if VA gets to Calgary, they're going to build around him. They're going to get a lot of really, really good weapons around him, which you already have. But I think they're going to get more. And they got a first-round pick, and I don't know if they're going to give up that first-round pick to get him. But my prediction is VA is going to go to Calgary, and I believe he's going to have an excellent season. I really do. My prediction is I don't think there's going to be one team in the West that's going to have a losing season. I really don't. I think they're all going to be above 500. I really do. 500 or above. I really do. I think it's going to be a very, very tight CFL league this year. I think the East is going to be strong. The West is going to be stronger than it was last year. I believe that the West itself is going to be, the parity is going to be unbelievable. I don't know if teams are going to go 5-1 then lose 6 in a row. I don't know if every team's going to do that. There's going to be a couple teams in this league that aren't going to get off to a great start, maybe to start off. But I just don't believe it's going to be as bad as it was in Calgary last year. I believe that they can go 500. They could go 9-9 and challenge for a playoff spot. They really could, and build from there. They really could. If they have a guy like VA at the helm, yeah, it's going to happen. But these are just my predictions. I'm not sure. Yeah, on the CFL itself, we got to get into another commissioner coming up, and who knows where we're going to go, what direction. We got to get somebody who's an unbelievable marketer, somebody who can get out and get to the youth and get to the kids and get to them of talking about how this league is great, and give them excuses why to wear a CFL jersey to school or why to wear a CFL jersey down the street, this type of thing. And it's going to take a lot of doing, and get a commissioner in that's going to want a 10th team ASAP. ASAP. We need a 10th team. Not rush it, but I'd say in the next couple years, get a place determined of where we can get a 10th team coming in and do some real damage in this league of turning the respectability around. For a lot of people that love the CFL for a lot of years and have been turned off, gone to the NFL, or haven't even just watched it for whatever reason they have, we got to get those people back, because I remember years ago, the CFL was respectable. People said, yeah, it's a good league, and I even heard people in Toronto were saying, yeah, it's starting to come back a bit. Yeah, it's a pretty respectable league, but we got to get those people, especially the Torontonians, the Toronto people, back into that stadium. And the only way that's going to be turned around is by a very good commissioner that does the right things, not just blabs about it, and does that kind of thing, but has experience at doing this type of thing, has had experience of going out and turning leagues around and starting up their own league and that kind of thing. And if he's an ex-player, great. If he's not, it doesn't matter. You know, we need somebody that's going to come in and going to be able to flow with the ideas, unique ideas that are going to work, that are realistic ideas, you know, that are going to work. Not these ideas where, you know, we had the 2.0, you know, which is good. You know, we brought a lot of world vision to our league with players that came in here, but profit-wise, we never made nothing. You know, we never did anything with it. You know, he said we were going to play games in Mexico. We never did. We never even went there. That went right off the bay rise. You know, he even talked about playing a game over in Europe. Well, that never happened. You know, a regular season game. That never happened either. So we need a commissioner to come in with realistic ideas at the beginning. You can build from that, then you can grow that realistically. That's how you're going to get this CFL back to respectability again with so many other people. And then you're going to see the TV viewers show up, and you're going to see more people in the stands. Viewership has gone up quite a bit this year. It did very well over the playoffs. I think we were close to 1 million in the semifinals, close to that in the Western finals. And the Grey Cup, of course, it peaked at 7-8 million again, peaked, and averaging close to over 4.5 million, I believe, for the whole game, which is really good. I can remember years ago when the Grey Cup was averaging 5-6 million averaging, you know, with everybody watching. We got to get it back to that with the new commissioner. And with that, I think, you know, we're going to be set in stone. We're going to be really good, but we got to get a 10th team. That's really going to put us on the map again. I think it will. But anyways, that is my philosophy of what's going on. We're going to talk a lot more about more news of the CFL next week, next Saturday, around 11 or 12. I'll make an announcement. And this is going to be BC's own CFL Talk. Like I said, I put my numbers up there. I'm going to put my text line up there for people to phone in and text in if they want and discuss what's going on. And we're going to go from there. And we're going to keep this show going as long as people want to keep listening. And as long as people want to keep listening, I don't care if it's 5 or 6 or 7 right now. We just started. This is our 4th episode, number 04. So we're just going to keep going. And eventually we're going to get out there. People are going to hear about us. And yeah, we're going to do some very unique things. We're going to have contests. We're going to have some trivias. We're going to have, once in a while, we're going to have prizes, that type of thing. So, and then when it comes down to the CFL season, this is going to be the Lions postgame show. This is going to be the Lions postgame show where people can text in. They can phone in if they want, talk about the season, talk about the game right after the game itself. So yeah, anybody interested, you know, hang in there with us, and we will climb the ladder slowly. And anybody who is listening, I want to say thank you very, very much, who is. And all we're going to do is get better and better and better at this. And like I said, you know, we're beginning. This is our 4th show, so hang in there with us. But I want to thank you. I wanted to thank everybody who joined us. And on this gloomy day Saturday, I don't think it's really raining out, but it could be. And it was a very interesting CFL season. Just to say that. I'm going to wrap up the Grey Cup talk now and let them know the Grey Cup was a very successful event, and it did very, very well. And I think Winnipeg next year will even do better. I really do. I think they're going to learn from this Grey Cup, and I think they're going to go out there and they're going to nail it. I think they're going to blow it out of the park next year. I really do. So, all the people, thank you again for listening, and people that will be listening to the future, thank you. This is the Red Zone from Vancouver, BC, and have a great, great Saturday.